A lot of talk around, is it either BOMBSHELL or Kyle Tucker? Is it both of them? Well, what does Jeff Passan have to say?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You guys know I talk about Game Time all the time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Brayden. He's Carter First. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Lot to get into today. I'm not going to waste anybody's time here. Jeff Passan had some words in regards to, is it either BOMBSHELL, is it either Kyle Tucker, or is it both of them? Is it neither of them? We'll get into all that. Plus, what is the term for BOMBSHELL, and what happens if you get neither of them? Also, we'll talk about the new coaches coming to Toronto and a special new feature Locked On has just announced. For those of you that missed that, we'll talk about all that in today's show. Carter, my man, why don't you kick us right off with what Jeff Passan had to say? We were sitting there while scrolling Twitter, and we came across this, and there's been a lot of people talking about it already yesterday, so let's hop right in.
Yeah, and the reason that we're doing this Jeff Passan conversation is because the Jays did not sign anybody during the winter meetings. Unfortunately, we got our signings before the winter meetings. There still will be signings after the winter meetings, but in terms of the Blue Jays being active during this time, did not really get a whole lot. Just a lot of rumors, some tidbits here, some analysts speaking, some insiders. Did get some stuff from obviously the general manager, Ross Atkins, and then the Dylan Cease interview. So we weren't left with nothing necessarily, but not exactly what we were hoping for. So with Jeff Passan, we're talking about Jeff Hoffman, throughout the offseason, obviously. But with Jeff Passan, he's known as, again, one of the most trusted MLB insiders. So that's why, for me, like when I see Jeff Passan breaking news, breaking a signing, I'm 99.9% sure that he is true and he is, has it correct. He has the right information, and he's not going to pull a Bob Nightingale and all of a sudden kind of retract what he said about a signing. So Jeff Passan got into how likely it would be for the Toronto Blue Jays to sign both BOMBSHELL and Kyle Tucker. And then also just a little bit about how the winter meetings are going and how aggressive the Toronto Blue Jays are in the offseason. So he said, everyone is chasing Toronto. The Blue Jays have been aggressive, going out, getting Dylan Cease, signing Cody Ponce. They're going to get at least one of the big bats out there and could go for Tucker and Bichette daily double. And if they do that, they're going to go into the season as no question the favorites of the AL East. And absolutely, if you get both of these guys, just looking at the lineup, it would be absolutely insane. So again, kind of going over the start of it, it's probably something like George Springer. Then you'd have Kyle Tucker at 2, Vladdy at 3, probably BOMBSHELL at number 4. I assume Alejandro, Kirk at 5. Then you have Addison, Barger, that could be at 6. You have Anthony Santander, we'll throw him at 7. Then you have Ernie, Clement still, Andres Gimenez. That might shape up your entire batting order, which is absolutely phenomenal. That's not even including Daulton, Varsho that you have to work in there somehow. So Ernie, Clement might lose some time again. As in Barger might not be in the lineup as much. But if you get Kyle Tucker and BOMBSHELL, I don't think you should be that worried about those two. So again, he kind of continued on and said the Blue Jays and the Red Sox are the two most aggressive teams during the winter meetings. So unfortunately, we haven't gotten any signings yet. But luckily for us, Kyle Tucker and BOMBSHELL are still on the free agent market. They're still actively ready to be signed by a team. And hopefully that is the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, at least getting one of them. Jeff Passan says they'll almost for sure get one of them. But if you get both of them, oh my goodness, you could definitely mark the Toronto Blue Jays as one of the favorites to win the World Series.
Yeah, and I think people took what we were talking about a few episodes ago, probably a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. I don't actually remember. When we were talking about, what to expect. And our thinking wasn't that they can't go and get both guys. The fact is that you can't expect them to go get both guys. You can't sit here and hang your hat that both guys are going to come here. Has it always been a possibility since the start of this free agency? Yes, it was always on the table. We've talked about it a ton, that it is possible to go get both guys. Is it the most likely thing? No, probably not. I put it at 5%, I think, Carter, when you asked me last time. And I'm sticking to that. I don't think it's I'm not going to put this at 40% because that's insane. That's pretty much me saying there's a 50-50 chance, a 60-40 chance of them getting both guys. I don't think it's quite there. I think it's a lot less. But it is a possibility. And I think as Blue Jays fans, you got to be happy that, this hasn't been completely written off. And I think that comes down to a lot of what happened with the Red Sox and Bo Bichette. And, obviously things didn't go the way that the Red Sox were hoping that conversation was going to go. Bo, this is chance to see how the market plays out. And if he wants to test it out like that, he's welcome to do so. Will that turn some teams off? Maybe. And that's maybe where the Blue Jays can step in with a little bit of a lower asking price than they were originally going to have to give Bo. And what we all considered was going to be the asking price for Bo. So yeah, it's going to be super interesting. But I just wanted to throw that out there, Carter, that, it's not that it's impossible. It's not impossible. It's just not the most likely thing in the world.
Well, another interesting thing that broke regarding the Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette saga. With Bo Bichette, it's been a lot of unknowns. We haven't heard a lot of rumors regarding the Toronto Blue Jays and honestly regarding a lot of teams around the major leagues. Like the Boston Red Sox, we saw that Zoom call. Like, again, I'm not really going to read too much into something like that. Kind of the same thing as, again, players just visiting different teams' facilities, just seeing kind of what they're all about. That's just part of the process. One thing that came out from Ken Rosenthal and Katie Wu of The Athletic, they said that the Dodgers are unlikely to offer Kyle Tucker a 6 or 7, of course, use those numbers once again, year contract, but they would be open to a higher dollar deal in the 3 to 4 year range. So if I'm Kyle Tucker, again, this guy is only about 28 years old. So he could sign that 3 or 4 year deal and then be 32, around 32 at the end of it and still be able to make the money after it. But I think with Kyle Tucker in the current position he is in his career, he is chasing that 6, that 7, that 8 year contract from different major league teams. And from what we've seen, the Yankees have not been in on the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes. The San Francisco Giants have not been in on the Tucker sweepstakes. The Mets are a team that just can't really afford to fork over another contract when you have Lindor and then you have Juan Soto, obviously. Yes, you have some money off the books now, unfortunately, with Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso, but I don't really see that as being a real thing for them. So that kind of just leaves the Toronto Blue Jays and then the Philadelphia Phillies I still have in there as well. They absolutely hate Nick Castellanos. Kyle Tucker would be a massive upgrade. I don't think the Cubs go out and sign Kyle Tucker. I think they've kind of cut ties, it seems like, at this point. So for John, kind of just looking around the league and just what the fit would be for Kyle Tucker, I think Toronto Blue Jays were already kind of seen as the favorites a few weeks ago. I think with more and more rumors and more information coming out about the process, we're seeing that the Toronto Blue Jays are aggressive in trying to acquire Kyle Tucker. They are aggressive in making their priorities known with Kyle Tucker. So if they are going to sign one or the other, I think right now, just with everything that's come out, I would be leaning towards the more likely chance of them signing Kyle Tucker. But if the Toronto Blue Jays are willing to pay him $400 million, again, whatever the contract ends up being, I'm going to be perfectly fine with it. Unless, if you get to the 500s, I think if you get to Vladdy numbers, it's a little bit ridiculous. But if you can get locked, or if you can lock up Kyle Tucker for a multi-year deal, just to have Kyle Tucker and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and then Dylan Cease as well now on the Blue Jays for the foreseeable future, that is a very good core number of players to have for a future of a franchise that wants to win right now.
Well, and we talk about not only this organization seeming like they're leaning towards Kyle Tucker and that looking like it's going to be the bigger possibility out of him and Bo Bichette. You see what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. made a little post on Tucker's Instagram page as well with the little the eyes emoji that goes like sideways or whatever. That's what he posted. So it is interesting. It's Vladdy and Miles Straw earlier in the year adding a little bit of smoke or a little bit of whatever it is on the fire, wood on the fire.
Yeah, a little bit. They're putting gasoline on the fire. They're making it a little bit bigger, so the fans are drawing some more attention to it. And with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. specifically, again, Miles Straw, not necessarily the face of the franchise, but with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., again, with him and his contract being with the Toronto Blue Jays until he's 500 at the $500 million man, like you think that, again, this is a little bit of a spin zone. I don't know this for sure, but you would think that Vladdy might be, being let known what the Toronto Blue Jays plans are. He might kind of be in the loop of what their at least targets are throughout the offseason. So I'm not saying that, Vladdy's showing the Blue Jays cards necessarily by commenting that emoji, but I mean, there is something to be said about the face of the franchise being involved with some of the transactions.
Yeah, I don't know about necessarily that. I think it's more so the fact, like you brought up how many years Vladdy is with this team. I think he wants good players to play here with him. And I don't necessarily know that he's had the conversations with the front office or anything like that. I just think he sees a guy, he obviously sees what we're all talking about and, everything like that the media is talking about. And he'd probably be thrilled to have Tucker on his team and, batting in front of Vladdy for his career. I mean, that's a pretty solid duo. And then obviously, I think the weird part in all of this is that we have not really heard a ton from the Bo Bichette market in terms of the Blue Jays and them talking and anything being leaked. I find that really strange, Carter.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns with Bo Bichette. And almost it makes you feel like the Toronto Blue Jays have their priority as Kyle Tucker. And Bo Bichette, again, is kind of the fallback plan, or maybe it is 1A and 1B, and they really are trying to get both of them. And I just want to go back to the Vladdy thing. I'm not saying that, Vladdy is, in the sole decision maker here with these contracts. But in terms of, for example, NFL football, like the quarterbacks a lot of the time are let known about the draft picks, or let known about different signings, let known about different guys that could help their own situation out. So like you said, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., having Kyle Tucker in front of you is definitely a lot easier. You can't pitch around Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I guess you can't really pitch around Kyle Tucker either, when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the guy that is right behind you. With Kyle Tucker, with his walk rate, with his ability to get on base and also slug as well. Don't want to take that away from his game. But if you get Kyle Tucker on first, then you pitch around Vladdy, and then that's 2 runners on. You got a runner in scoring position, and you got some pretty solid guys behind him as well that I'm confident that can drive in those runs, especially if it is Bo Bichette. I mean, that is going to be an absolute nightmare 2, 3, 4 for opposing pitchers.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, we've sat here and talked about this. We've given the lineup rundown on what this team can look like with a lineup with Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in it, not counting George Springer, Anthony Santander, Addison, Barger, Daulton, Varsho, Alejandro, Kirk, all of these guys, Ernie, Clement. I mean, I could list, keep going, but it's dangerous. Like that is a World Series contending roster. Like right now, you don't know, because some guys are going to have a little bit of fall off. You don't know how the bats are going to be next year. But I mean, if you have 4 or 5 solid pieces, it doesn't really matter if some of these other guys have a down year, because those guys you pretty much know what they're going to give you every season, or at least yet an idea.
Yeah, those guys are going to be pretty high floor guys. As long as they don't get injured. Injuries can kind of derail some seasons. We saw it with Bo Bichette. We've seen it around the league with a lot of different players. So I guess to kind of end this conversation here, you said before a couple weeks ago when I asked you this, the likelihood of Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette both coming to the Toronto Blue Jays. With all the new information that has come out about this situation, are you still sticking to your 5%, or are you putting it as a little bit higher, a little bit more likely that the Toronto Blue Jays land both stars?
No, I think 5% still. Like and that's not saying 5% in the terms of, actual percentages if you're taking like whatever, because obviously it's you can say it's more than that, but it's free agency. There's 30 teams. Again, which of those 30 teams are in on guys like Bo Bichette? You don't know 100% for certain anyway. I just think to sign both those guys, there's a lot to consider. Maybe 10%, 15, whatever it is. It's somewhere in that range. It's not very high. It's not the most likely thing to happen, but I'm saying there's a chance. Right. And at the end of the day, that's all we want. I knew you were going to like that as soon as it came out of my mouth. Yeah, so no. And you know what? We got some comments saying like, you guys are idiots if you don't think that the Blue Jays can afford both guys. It's like, no, they can afford both guys. That's not the question at all. Is that this is a business. And it's not going out and signing Shohei Ohtani for $700 million, who's going to bring in a monstrous number of new fans to your ball club. You don't sign a Bo Bichette and a Kyle Tucker and expect a whole, all of Japan to then start following the team. That's just not going to happen. These guys aren't the biggest marketing guys of all time, right? Like the Shohei Ohtanis, the Roki Sasakis, they don't bring in those new fans. So it's a business. They still want to be making money. And at the end of the day, as much as they say they want to win, they also don't want to not make a profit on their Major League Baseball team. So that's why I'm putting the percentage around that 5, 10, 15, whatever, pick a number if you want it. That margin, just because that is a tough pill to swallow for an organization who's already spending $500 million on Vladdy, $210 million on Dylan Cease, what would be 400 or whatever it's going to be for Kyle Tucker, another 2-something for Bo, and that's not taking into consideration the Anthony Santander contract, the George Springer contract, Kevin Gausman, Jose Berrios, adding all of this stuff together, they still have to turn a profit. And as much as I hate to say that, because I'm a fan and I just want them to go out and get everybody, I really do. I just don't think I'm not going to put it at 50%, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think a profit's an issue when if you had guys like BOMBSHELL, Kyle Tucker, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on your baseball team. Like those guys are the guys that are going to bring, they're going to fill seats. They're going to put butts in seats. And like you're going to be taken seriously as a baseball team. Like look at opening day if you have all of these guys. That's going to be sold out. It's probably going to be sold out for the first 30 games for sure of the season in Toronto. So it's not the Shohei Ohtani necessarily marketability, but you sign some of the best players in all of baseball. This goes to show that shows fans that the Blue Jays are taking this seriously. They are trying to again build that World Series roster, trying to make this team better. So, but like you said though, like that is a lot of money to spend, and it's not necessarily spending the most amount of money ever. As the Dodgers have had some success with it, obviously with the deferrals, things like that. But it's not necessarily like just the tried and true formula. If you spend the most amount of money in the major leagues, you're going to win a World Series. Just look at the New York Mets and how their season went as one of the top spending payrolls in all of baseball, going back to 2024 with the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, they weren't necessarily number one or even top five at that point. They were close to it, though, did not even end up making the playoffs. So one thing we've talked about a lot is Kyle Tucker and his term. We've both kind of agreed that his term will probably be in that 7 to 8 year range, maybe 10 even as well. But with BOMBSHELL and some of the uncertainty with his contract, is there a possibility that he could sign a shorter term deal with an organization? We'll cover that right here on Locked On Blue Jays. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment that they hit the app. It puts the power back into your hands, and it makes going to the World Cup, NHL games, NFL games, whatever you guys want to see, concerts, events, it makes it realistic instead of impossible. You can pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. That's one of my favorite parts about Game Time, is that you can look at exactly where you want to sit in the app, especially if you're at a concert, a different event. If you want to be up close and personal, you can see that as well and compare the price to what your view is going to be. If you kind of want to hide away, maybe in the nosebleeds to a sports game, depending on where you're going, that you can see where the view is. You can see how it does look from that location. So it's a very nice thing. You kind of just know exactly what you're getting for your money when you do use Game Time. So you can take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets, concert tickets, any sort of event that you guys are going to with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time.
Today's episode is brought to you by Doer. You guys know how much we here at Locked On Blue Jays love this company. We talk about it all the time, but the holidays are here. This year, I'm not stressing about what I got to wear. We got this Friends Christmas thing we do. For some reason, the girls don't like the skinny jean thing anymore, even though I don't think they're skinny jeans, but I'll leave it at that. But my Doer jeans, they're next level. I'm telling you, they're the most comfortable jeans I have by a long shot. Like, it's not even close. Doer's denim and lifestyle apparel is engineered for movement and versatility. And, have a couple drinks, hanging around. They just look good too. It's a perfect little, it's a perfect thing to wear for events like these. It's time for you to experience the comfort of Doer. I know you'll love these. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift. You can actually check them out in Toronto, 44 Ossington Ave. Again, promo code LOCKEDONTORONTO in store to get 15% off your first order, or you can check them out online, DUER.ca/LockedOnToronto for 15% off. That's doer.ca/LockedOnToronto. So, Carters, we continue on. Obviously, we've talked a ton about term, about contracts, and that's pretty much what we've been doing all off season long. So, a couple things to get into here. First, I want to chat about BOMBSHELL's term and where this could go. Second of all, I want to talk what happens if you don't get either of these guys. First of all, let's talk about a BOMBSHELL contract and the term of this contract, because, as we've seen, the market isn't necessarily exploding for BOMBSHELL, which I think is a big shock to a lot of Blue Jays fans, and honestly to myself. He's a fantastic batter, but the fielding definitely lacks. A guy that was probably looking for around a 7-year contract, Carter. Do you see him getting a 7-year contract now, or do you think it will take a little bit of a dip just as sort of the market is suggesting?
I think that's what BOMBSHELL is looking for. Like, he's definitely wanting some term in his deal, but one guy I wanted to compare this situation to is a guy in Alex Bregman. I thought he was a shoe-in last offseason to sign that 6, 7, 8-year contract. But what he does is he takes a 3-year deal with some player opt-outs. So depending on which way the market goes, again, it's kind of looking like it's spiraling downhill in terms of BOMBSHELL right now. And I'm not saying he's going to sign a 5-year, $100 million deal, but maybe it does go a little bit lower than a $200 million. And it really depends what the breaking point is for BOMBSHELL. He probably has a bottom number that he does not want to go lower. He does not want to sign at a specific term. So maybe it might be in his best interest, depending on which team he's going to, what his situation is, a bunch of different things. Because if you're signing a shorter term contract with BOMBSHELL, his age going to be 28 years old, I believe, on opening day, 27 and 28, right in that range. So if he signs that 2-3 year deal, he will be about 30 or 31 by the time that contract is ended, and he could get another payday, especially if he has continued success. Again, the playoff run helps BOMBSHELL out. There is some injury concerns that a lot of people brought up on our previous episode, which are definitely true for BOMBSHELL. Again, some of the mobility stuff, the lower body injuries contributing to that. There is a lot of unknown with BOMBSHELL. I think that's why the market could be looking this way. But it might be in Bo's best interest, maybe not necessarily with the Toronto Blue Jays as much as we do want him back, but to sign that short-term deal with some player opt-outs, because then if he has a very good season, or maybe if he has a bad season, he still can stay with the team. If he has a very good season, maybe he goes next year and test free agency in a pretty weak class. He would be the headliner of that class. It probably would get significantly more money than he would in this class, considering there's Kyle Tucker, there's the pitching market, there's a ton of different guys that can supplement teams maybe a little bit better than BOMBSHELL can in totality. So I think he's still going to explore the market. I think he still is looking for that longer term deal. But if push comes to shove, I don't think it's the craziest idea that BOMBSHELL takes a shorter term deal with some player opt-outs.
Yeah, I don't think this would be a 1-2 year deal. I think it would still be a 3 or 4 personally. I don't think it goes below a 3-year deal, but I could see it with some opt-outs for sure. Yeah, I don't know. With the way that this market is trending right now, I would be very curious to see somebody give him a 7-year deal worth that around that 210, 215, 220 mark. I think with what we're seeing, it may be a 3-year deal, at around, I don't know, Carter, what do you have him for an AAV? If it's a 3
for
or
sure
4
would be
year
higher
deal,
if it's a shorter term. Because
you're
getting BOMBSHELL in your prime. In his prime.
you got to assume if it's a 3-year deal, you're probably spending upwards of 28.
I'm thinking like 35. Like, I think if Bo's signing that short-term deal, I think you're really spending that AAV. Like when Bregman signed that deal with the Red Sox, like he had a 40 million AAV, 3 years, 120 million. That's a lot for Alex Bregman. So yeah. I think with Bo, again, the ability to play defense is definitely in question. And maybe it's not exactly 35, but I'm saying flat out, it for sure would be above 30. I think in between that 30 and 35 AAV range with a shorter term deal would be beneficial. I think the more term you give a player, just kind of, especially looking at Vladdy's contract, for example, like the more term you gave Vladdy, the less AAV you had to have on a per season basis. Sure. So I think with Bo, again, he's taking a lot more risk with, kind of putting that term to the wayside and, signing with his prime. Because if he has one down year in that age 32, 33 season, whatever it ends up being, there is a lot more risk than having those extra years at the end of a contract. So I would have it for sure between $30 and $35 million average annual value if it is in that 3 to 4 year range.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of at the point now where I'm sort of expecting a BOMBSHELL contract to come in around the 30 mark. If it's 28, if it's to 32, I would say 28, 32 is sort of where I'm leaning. No matter necessarily, I don't know if it really matters compared to a 7 to a 4. Maybe if you're dropping it down to a 3-year or a 2-year, maybe then it goes up. I think if it's a 2-year contract, it's probably, I think you're looking at probably 35, but I don't know. I think even on a 4-year deal, I don't know if he makes more than 32. So
Bo's 27 right now. So if he's signing like a 4-year deal, I believe he is 28 when the opening day is. So it'd be about 32 years old if it was a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
So like if you're looking at a 7-year deal, you're getting Bo for his age 32, 33, and 34 years, which again have a lot more question marks, especially with BOMBSHELL. One of the biggest unknowns with BOMBSHELL is how he's going to age and how his defensive capabilities are going to manage with that, already not being a great defender right now. So that's why I said there's a lot of risk if you don't have that term if you're BOMBSHELL. I think the kind of advocate for that risk and, make it worthwhile for BOMBSHELL in signing a contract, you would have to have a pretty high AAV.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you. And I mean, we're sitting here bickering about $2 or $3 million. So I don't think we're that
Well,
far off.
when you say it like that, it doesn't sound a lot, but I mean, it definitely matters for organizations. Like, I guess not the Toronto Blue Jays, but they're just throwing away the Miles Straw contract, the possibility of throwing away Yariel Rodriguez's contract. Again, they wanted a team to pick him up. Of course, unfortunately, it did not end up going that way, but there's still a possibility where Yariel Rodriguez doesn't make the opening day roster, and they're pretty much just eating $17 million. So I guess, like, depending on which way you're looking at it and what you're kind of standing on when you're looking at it, which perspective you have, you could think that is a lot, but I think for a contract, like, that's kind of what they're negotiating right now. Like, I think $2 to $3 million per year is definitely a lot in terms of a contract, especially if it's going to range over 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, for sure. I think the longer, the more it matters, because it's going to matter in that 7th year, in that 6th year. So for sure. We're going to have to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to chat a little bit more about what happens if you don't get both. Plus, we're going to talk, just let you guys in on who the new coaches are for this ball club, plus a new special feature that Locked On is doing. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with all that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And I've been betting like crazy lately. I've been loving FanDuel because some of the bets that they have are just awesome. And you know what I also like? I love on the app when you go in and you're about to place a bet and you can see, it shows you like how hot the bet is. If there's one that everybody's betting on, you can sort of hop on board with that. And it's even better for NFL Sundays. They move so fast, one big play, suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. That's what I've been doing. I've been waiting until game time starts, and then I've just I've been placing them as the game goes, because I can see, oh, this guy's been doing really well, or oh, this guy's really not having a good game. Good thing I didn't place at the start of a game. So the live betting is the best option, especially if you parlay them into a same game parlay. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. So, Carter, what are your thoughts here? If this, we talk a lot about getting one of them, getting both of them. What happens if you get none of them?
Yeah, it sucks. Like, that is like a dagger. That's an absolute dagger to the heart. Like, I just don't know how you expect to get better as a roster if you lose BOMBSHELL and then don't sign Kyle Tucker as well. Yes, there are other options. You can get Cody Bellinger. You can get another corner outfielder to kind of make up for it. Again, the middle infielders, you don't really have a ton of options. Ha-Seong Kim might be a guy that I would be okay with signing, but he's definitely not a BOMBSHELL coming off of a down year. Like, you can't replicate the production that BOMBSHELL is going to produce for your ball club, especially now with, Kyle Schwarber, a guy that maybe could have replicated that being off the books. Pete Alonso, another guy that will not be available. Maybe you can pivot towards Alex Bregman, and that could be a fit for the Blue Jays. Like, he is obviously your third baseman, and then you have Addison Barger would probably be your corner outfielder. Again, how does that work? Does he play left field predominantly? I think that's probably the move that you'd have to make. So yeah, it would not be very fun. Like, it would be up there with missing out on, like, not necessarily just Juan Soto, but everyone the Toronto Blue Jays missed out on in that 2024 offseason. And this is kind of what I wanted to phrase to you. If they did miss out on Kyle Tucker and BOMBSHELL, compared to like the Shohei Ohtani stuff, compared to the Juan Soto, Corbin Burns, Roki Sasaki, just everyone, Teoscar Hernandez, there's a long list that we could go into. If they missed out on Kyle Tucker and BOMBSHELL, out of those 3 seasons, which one do you think would hurt you the most?
The Shohei Ohtani one is going to sting forever, just because of how it all unfolded, the flight logs and whatever else. Thanks, John Morosi, for all of that. That's on you. Then the Juan Soto one, I sort of felt a little bit more prepared for. And, I was the one thinking that it wasn't really going to happen. And then now with this one, there's been a lot of talk around Tucker and Bichette and what's going to happen there. So maybe this will hurt. Maybe I'll look back at it differently if it doesn't happen. But right now I'd say wouldn't hurt as much as the Ohtani one did, but will probably hurt more than the Juan Soto one did. So somewhere in the middle. But losing Bo really is it will be a bit of a dagger to the heart. Whereas Kyle Tucker, if we don't get him, that absolutely sucks. Like, that is brutal, especially after all these reports. But it's just a different feeling if you do lose Bo and then you don't even go and get the guy that's supposed to quote unquote replace him. Obviously not positionally, but as a bat. That's worst case scenario by far, Carter. I mean, yeah, that would. I don't know what you do. You'd see a Brayden shaped hole in my wall probably.
I think for me, like if the plane stuff didn't come out for Shohei Ohtani, I think this one would actually be the worst. If you missed out on Kyle Tucker and you missed out on Bo Bichette, just because of how close you were to getting to the World Series and how fun that 2025 season was, it feel like the Toronto Blue Jays just aren't really trying to add to that, especially going and having this starting rotation as good as it can be with all the upside that it does possess. If you don't go out and get one of these power bats, because Bo Bichette, like this is a guy that was on that World Series roster, and that is a huge subtraction. So if you're looking at a guy like Shohei Ohtani, you look at, again, Corbin Burns, Roki Sasaki, whatever, Juan Soto, these guys weren't on the team. Like these guys were never on the Toronto Blue Jays. Where Bo Bichette, there's a lot more emotional ties. Like there's so many different thoughts that could be rolling through your head. Why didn't you extend Bo Bichette earlier? Which we talked about a ton previously. Like it's like wouldn't have been a bad idea to try to get it done at the end of the 2024 season. Again, if you're Bo Bichette, you probably don't sign that contract. But I think this one, with just the aspirations, and especially now with like how likely it seems that they're going to land at least one of them, like Jeff Passan pretty much almost confirming that they're going to get one of them, as close as you can to confirming it without actually confirming it if you're an MLB insider. So I think if, again, such a unique situation with the Shohei Ohtani stuff, and obviously such a prolific player, would have completely changed this organization. Again, you kind of get all Japan. Maybe you land a Yamamoto. Maybe you get Roki Sasaki. Like there's so much that is like up for what ifs with the Shohei Ohtani stuff. So if that wasn't such a unique situation, I probably would go with the Bo Bichette and Kyle Tucker stuff, especially now that I'm before like the start this season off. I was really hoping for one of them. I still kind of had it in me, the expectation that it might not happen. Now, as we've continued along this offseason, like it's almost like it's just automatic that they're going to get one of these two players. So I still have that little bit of an emotional shield up just in case it does happen, but I would not take it very well either. I think I'd be following you into that Brayden sized hole. Might have to make it a little bit bigger for me to fit in there, but I mean, I would be right behind you, unfortunately.
Carter, just as we sort of wrap up this episode, I wanted to make sure that I got in the coaches that were hired. So two external hires, Drew Butera and Cody Atkinson. While the other one, Eric Duncan, he was promoted from within, having served as the Blue Jays Director of Position Player Development since 2024. So just a couple of guys there. Butera had a lengthy big league career spanning from 2010 to 2021, winning the World Series in 2015 with the Kansas City Royals. Some of those guys' actual necessary positions haven't been 100% confirmed yet, but that is out there. Three new coaching hires for this Toronto.
I got the position. So I got Cody Atkinson as the assistant hitting coach, taking the Hunter Men's spot. Eric Duncan as the major league field coordinator. Ask me what that does. I mean, I won't have a very good answer for you, unfortunately.
He's the one that helps shoveling the air.
Oh, there you go. That's a pretty good position. That's one that I would be willing to do. And Drew Butera as major league coach. So, I mean, not very specific on that one, but he's going to have a role with the Toronto Blue Jays. And this was tweeted from the Toronto Blue Jays Twitter account. So you can't get closer to the source than this.
There you go.
So pretty interesting that just major league coach, not like he's just doing everything out there. So yeah, just wanted to give those guys obviously a shout out. They're going to be a big piece of the puzzle. Won't be guys that you see all the time or hear about all the time, but they definitely do matter a whole lot, as we found out with David Popkins and the difference that he made on this Toronto Blue Jays offense. So I guess to kind of end it quickly, I'll just get your overall reactions to the winter meetings. Like, how did you feel as a Toronto Blue Jays fan going through those winter meetings?
Nothing, to be honest with you. It was all information that we already knew. There were some signings by other teams, but for a Blue Jays perspective, nothing really changed for me. Everything stayed the same. There was the whole Bo Bichette Zoom call garbage that came out that really has no effect besides us thinking maybe his market is a little bit lower. But yeah, there was really not a whole ton of new information, which sort of sucks because around this time of year is when we sometimes get a load of information of how this offseason is going to go.
Yeah, disappointing would be like the way I would say it. And then just looking at the bullpen market, looking at how it's not completely depleted, but those top end options that a lot of Toronto Blue Jays fans wanted in Edwin Diaz, Robert Suarez, like the Devin Williams. I know that happened a little bit before. There's a ton of different players that already have been signed. And now just kind of looking at what the plan B is. And there is still some good pitchers out there like Pete Fairbanks, Tyler Rogers, Brad Keller, just to name a few. Luke Weaver's another guy that some people are trying to get Blue Jays fans excited for me, like not really going to turn the needle too much. If they sign him, sure, great, but I think you need another piece in that bullpen. I don't hate Luke Weaver again as a bullpen arm, but if that is your major bullpen signing, that is probably where I have some issues. So that is one thing that we'll probably turn our attention towards, is what the Toronto Blue Jays are going to do to pivot in the bullpen. And just one more thing that I wanted to bring up for this episode is that we are dropping down to 3 days a week next week. It is our technical offseason. Again, we will still be here. If there is any signings, again, we'd love to go live every single day if the Toronto Blue Jays are going to make a transaction every single day. But after these winter meetings, that is kind of the real dog days of the offseason. GMs are taking vacations again, spending time with their families. Ross Atkins will probably be on the yacht somewhere, so I don't know how active he will necessarily be. I don't expect him to be done. And, last time he went on the yacht, we did get some transactions. So maybe that's just what he needs. Maybe Ross Atkins needs a little bit of a vacation. So, yeah, we will be dropping down to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Those will be the 3 days that we will send out the podcast. And then, obviously, like I said, if there is live streams, we will bring you a live stream as soon as we possibly can. We've been pretty good at it. Again, with the holiday season, we'll try our best. And if it's January 2nd to the 9th, that will be a little bit unfortunate because we are going on a trip then. So hopefully, Ross, if he's going to get active, make it before the new year or after January 9th.
Yeah, Carter, it's going to be some fun time, and hopefully everybody enjoys and has a great holiday season. But like we said, we'll be back with you Monday. I don't actually know what day Christmas lands on, but we'll have a Christmas episode, New Year's episode out for all you guys. We'll have some fun on those.
I think it's a Wednesday, actually.
Perfect. Christmas morning. Locked on Blue Jays.
It's a Thursday, Christmas Eve.
Never mind. Carter broke all your hearts. I'm sorry about that. We'll talk to you guys later.